guys, welcome to part 2 of painting with textures. If you were with us on our last video, I showed you guys how to use some drop shadow, some different textures, using some different selection tools over here, as well as the layers and just some basics like moving and things like that. Alright, so here's my background, and I'm going to just turn the visibility off for now so that it doesn't get in the way. And that way I can keep looking at my layout and all that fun stuff. Alright, so I still have some teeth in my visor and my little background character. So let's work on our visor. So I'm going to just go ahead and add in another image layer. And I'm going to find one that kind of reminded me of the visor. So this kind of reminded me of the visor. Alright, so I'm going to scale it down. Now this is obviously not the color I want. I wanted more of a blue color. And as you can see, I'm just moving this up because the visors are going to be on top of everything. So I want to make sure it's on top of everything. But there's a way we can change this so it turns into that blue color that we're looking for. Adjustment. And I want to go down to Hue Saturation. Now what Hue Saturation does, it actually allows me to change the color of things. Check that out. Well, hold up. Let me put a little bit more color in there. By upping my saturation, and then moving hue. So you can see that's more of a purple, this is more of a brown, green, blue, and then as you go through it does that. But you can also colorize. So if I click the colorize option, boom, now I have a specific color and I can kind of get that light blue that I was going for. So here's kind of the blue that I want, but I want it to be lighter, so I'm just going to move up in my lightness here. A little bit right about there, I think. Down my saturation a bit because it's really super saturated. And I think that's good. Apply. I'm going to do one more adjustment. This one's going to be a brightness contrast, and this just kind of lets me brighten it up and contrast it up a little bit depending on what you're doing. And I think that's pretty close to what I want, so I'm going to just go ahead and apply that. I'm still not loving this though. It's not quite where I want it to be, but that's okay. We'll work with it. So I'm kind of scaling it down into that visor shape. And if I go to Edit, Free Transform, it'll actually let me rotate this. And I'm just going to kind of try and get it as close to my visor as possible because I want as much of that outside texture as I can get. There we go. Now I have that. Awesome. And I want to just go ahead and turn my visibility off. Go to my layout layer. Get my wand and click my visor. Perfect selection. I'm going to go back to my visor, highlight it, turn my check mark back on, and I want to inverse this by pressing Control I as in ice cream, and then delete or backspace to get rid of the extra. I'm going to press Control D as in dog to deselect, and I'm going to add in one more texture here. This one's going to be for his teeth. So I'm kind of looking, there's this kind of yellowy one here. I think I'm going to go with that. Kind of scale it down and put it over my teeth. I'm going to turn my visibility off by clicking the check mark. And then going down to the bottom to highlight my layout layer. I'm going to grab my magic wand. Turn my teeth texture on. Control I to inverse it and delete. Now I got some teeth. And honestly, my visor feels really plain compared to everything else. So I'm going to press Control D and I'm going to add some texture in there. Ooh, but then again, I have this blue one here and I think that would work out so much better than what I have right now. It just looks way more like a visor. it is totally okay to do something and then realize that, hey, this isn't working and you want to switch it. And that's what I'm doing right now. Kind of just rotate that into place. Much better. I'm already just super excited about this. I'm going to go back down to my bottom layer. I'm going to uncheck the top here and use my magic wand to select the visor. And you notice that it will do that perfect selection even if the visor's on, because I'm in this layer. It will select according to this layer every single time. All right, I'm gonna go back to my top layer, turn it on, do a Control-I to inverse it, and then I want to press delete. Much, much better. I'm enjoying that already. Tremendously better. All right, so now I'm going to do Control-D as in dog to deselect, and I have my first textures here. I'm going to hold off on doing this, so I'm just going to delete this extra visor by going to the 3 dots and going to the trash can. There we go. So now I have all my pieces. They're ready to go, and this is when I'm going to start adding in my drop shadow, guys. So I'm going to turn the visibility on everything. Man, that looks good. I'm really excited about this. So I'm going to start with my visor. I'm going to go up to Filter, Drop Shadow. Check that out. You can start adding in those drop shadows. It already looks so much cooler. I can decide if I want it to be more see-through or stronger, but check that out. It has that nice black crispy line that you see in the game. You can also decide if you want it to be blurry or not, but again, we want that crispy line that we were talking about. You can change the color even if you wanted to. Say you wanted it to be more of like a dark blue, you can do that, but I'm going to stick with black because I think that's kind of iconic and it goes with what we're trying to do. You can also kind of change your drop shadow, so I might bring it up over here, bring it down, give it like a slightly different look. Whatever I am doing though, I just want to make sure that I am doing it to my best of my ability. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that. And I can always add in another drop shadow if I want and completely change what side it is on. So no blur, strong opacity. Now I've got a really interesting line going on that works a lot better. I'm going to do the same thing for my teeth. So all I did was I went down in my layers, and now I'm going to add in a drop shadow for my teeth. Check that out, guys. Doesn't it look super cool? I'm just really excited about how this is coming out. And again, you can kind of offset it. You can change where it is positioned here. But I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and apply that. I'm going to do one more to kind of create like a gum outline. So I'm going to do Filter, Drop Shadow. This one I'm going to make kind of like a pinkish pale color. Like that. Turn my opacity up so that it's not see-through. And I'm going to move my X and my Y until it kind of gets to a gum line effect here. It might not work for me. I was hoping it would, but I just don't know. So let's try black instead. You know what? I'm going to go with like a dark kind of brown. Yes, I like it. So again, like you have to play with it to really understand what you're going with it. But you can already see it already looks tons better than what it did. We're going to go back down one more layer. This is my backpack that I've been working on. And honestly, I want this backpack to sit behind the body. So I'm just going to click and drag it underneath my body really quick. And if you get confused with these layers, guys, it's always a good idea to name them. I'm going to click my body, add in another drop shadow by going to Filter, Drop Shadow. And it's already black, so I'm good. But I'm going to go ahead and switch that opacity so it's nice and dark. Check that out. It looks so cool. I'm so excited. I can give it more or less depending on what I'm doing. But wow, does that look good already. I am very, very excited about this one. And apply. Give it one more drop shadow here, because I really do like the way it's giving me that black outline. And I think we are good. Apply. Now I'm going to do my backpack by clicking that layer, going to filter, drop shadow, turning my opacity all the way up to get that strong black line. I'm just going to kind of move it back like this and apply. So I actually have a little Among Us character right here that I'm kind of basing my shading off of. And it definitely looks like it's top lit and kind of coming from the sides. That's what I want to replicate with my character. So I'm going to use my lasso to do that. But before I do any of that, because I added in a drop shadow, I have to rasterize these layers. So I'm just going to start with my first one, and I'm going to go to Layer, Rasterize Layer. And I'm going to do this for each of the layers. All right, so I will start with my backpack and work my way up. So the backpack just has a little bit of lighting right on the top. So that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to use my lasso tool. And I'm just going to make a little circle where I want to see that lighting here. Just like that. You want to go to Adjustment, and then you want to go to Hue Saturation. And I'm literally just going to lighten this up a bit. Just like that. And I went up to 20. I'm going to remember that number for when I go to do the other ones as well. I'm just going to click Apply, and that looks good. Now I'm going to jump up to the body and start doing the same thing for the body. So I'm going to go ahead and draw where I want my shading to be. I know that the light's coming from the top, so I'm going to kind of go in like this and give it more of a rounded look, because I think it's going to look better that way. Now, to make several different selections, I have to add in my addition mode, which is right up here on the top, and that will let me add in several spots. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a spot here for his mouth. And lastly, I'm going to make a spot here for his leg. Looks good. I'm going to add a little bit here to the back leg as well, I think. And I think that's good for shading. I'm just going to go ahead and go to Adjustment, Hue Saturation. I'm going to add that 20 in my lightness. And that looks pretty good. Apply. Now I can press Ctrl D to deselect. I'm already getting some really interesting colors and shapes. I'm going to move on to my visor, and looking at the visor here, they actually have like a gray visor and a blue visor in others, but they have this highlight in there no matter what. So I'm going to use my lasso, and I'm just going to kind of grab the top here. And my lasso is a little jagged. I'm going to see if I can fix that. I'm actually going to use my Bezier lasso, because that gives me some really cool options. So I'm going to press Ctrl D. Check out this Bezier option. So if I use my Bezier lasso, check this out. I can actually click again, and then I can move to get a rounded selection. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to click again, kind of round it here. Awesome. And then when I'm ready, I can press Enter, and it will complete my selection. So now I'm just going to go back up to Adjustment. I'm going to do Brightness Contrast this time, because I want to brighten up that little area there. Awesome. And Apply. Ctrl D to deselect, and it's already looking pretty good. I just need to get that little highlight on the top now. So I'm going to go ahead and use that Bezier one more time. Awesome. One more Adjustment, Brightness Contrast, and I'm just going to brighten that up even more, because this is going to be our white highlight. Nice. And Apply. I think I'm going to leave that for our next video. So if you want to learn more about how to do this and make it look super awesome,